Episode number 934, Comparing Our Inside to Other People's Outside.
You're listening to the official BNI podcast with BNI founder and Chief Visionary Officer, Dr. Ivan Misner. Stay tuned for networking and referral marketing tips from the man who's been called the father of modern networking, along with suggestions and insights into getting the most from your membership in the world's largest networking organization, BNI.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the official BNI podcast. I'm Priscilla Rice, and I'm coming to you from Live Oak Recording Studio in Berkeley, California, and I'm joined on the phone today by the founder and the Chief Visionary Officer of BNI, Dr. Ivan Misner. Hello, Ivan. How are you, and where are you?
I have just gotten back from the BNI membership cruise, the U.S. cruise to the Caribbean, and spent several days with BNI members from all over the United States. It was a blast.
Wow, that sounds like fun. Okay, and what do you have to share with us today?
So for quite a few years, I have, talked to my kids and mentored business people, particularly when, they felt like they just weren't enough. They weren't as successful as they should have been or could have been or are. And they would sometimes compare themselves to other people. And, I've thought about this a lot. And I think the problem with that is that we compare our inside to other people's outside. And so I'll explain that more. But first, let me say why I think we do this. Briefly, what it means is, we compare who we are, and we know who we are, to what we see from other people and how they behave. And we do this because I think it's human wiring to some extent. Our brains are built for a social comparison. It's how we assess where we fit in a tribe or a community or a chapter. The problem is that today's tribe or community or chapter includes curated Instagram feeds and highlight reels, right? Mm-hmm. I think impression management is part of it. People show the polished outside of their successes, vacations, best angles on social media. Rarely do they show the tears, the struggles, the sleepless nights. We forget that what we see is to some extent marketing. It's certainly not the full and complete reality of someone's life. We have emotional blind spots. We have full access to our insecurities, mm-hmm. our failures, our doubts, but we only see the edited trailer of other people's lives, not the behind the scenes footage. I also think there's a bit of a survival bias. We notice the winners, not the strugglers. It tricks us into thinking that everyone else has figured it out except us. I can't tell you how many times people said that they got it all figured out. Or sometimes when I'd talk to people and I'd say, I really struggled with that. And they would say, wow, I thought you had it all figured out. Well, it's because, you see my outside, you don't see my inside. I struggle with the same kinds of things that a lot of other people struggle with. Mm-hmm. I think there's a cost of this kind of comparison. And it begins with this. Comparison to me is the thief of joy. It distorts reality. You judge your whole messy inside world against somebody's carefully staged outside. And it's an unfair fight. You'll often lose that fight. I think there's an element of a paralysis and imposter syndrome. And when you constantly measure yourself up against others, it can stop you from taking risks, starting projects, or celebrating your own progress. I would urge the listeners here to listen to episode 912 of BNI Podcast, 912, about imposter syndrome, where somebody came to me and asked me about imposter syndrome. And I have a whole episode on that. The third thing I want to talk about is how to avoid the comparisons. These are some things to consider to avoid comparing your inside to other people's outside. First, flip the frame. Instead of saying, why am I not where they are? Ask, what can I learn from their journey? Turn envy into education. What is it that I can learn from what they did to get to where they are? I think gratitude as an antidote, and I've talked about gratitude. Do a search on BNI Podcast. You'll find quite a few podcasts that I've done on gratitude. Write down your daily wins, small or big. Gratitude focuses you on what you do have rather than what you lack. And I think it's a powerful, powerful thing to include in your life, to be grateful for the things that you have achieved in your life. And we've all got things that we feel we could do better at. I certainly do. But I try to spend as much time as possible in gratitude. This is an important one. Curate your inputs. Let me explain that. If certain social feeds trigger comparison, mute them. Don't consume content that poisons your self-worth. I started saying this during the COVID pandemic. Microdose the news. I really feel strongly about that one. The news has become less about news and more about opinions regarding the news. And so don't consume content that poisons your self-worth, your value, or that has you, be fearful of the world. Go back to the state of gratitude. Remember the rule of context. You know your whole story, but you only see others' highlight reel. So give yourself the same grace you give them. You have your own highlight reel, and they see that, and they may not see the other troubles that you've got. And understand that you run your own race. Life is a marathon, not a sprint. Yes, I wrote a book with that title. Networking is a marathon, not a sprint. And it's a callback certainly to the title of that book, which I'll be talking about in some future podcasts. The only competitor worth beating is the you of yesterday. So run that race, be better than you were yesterday. On my social media, I have a whole series of Ivanisms. So I'm going to give you some Ivanisms before I wrap up.
Okay.
That relate to, your inside versus somebody else's outside. Here's 4 of them. First, stop comparing your behind the scenes footage to someone else's highlight reel. Second, what we see in others is often performance, not reality, or not the total reality. Your inside voice doesn't hear their inside struggles. So don't assume they don't have any. And the last Ivanism I'm going to share before I wrap up is, in life, the only scoreboard that matters is your own growth. That's the scoreboard that is the most important. So just to wrap up, Priscilla, recognize that your story is still being written. And the only person you truly need to outpace is the version of yourself from yesterday. Run your own race because your inside journey matters more than anyone else's outside show. And stop comparing your life to someone else's Instagram feed, filters. They don't pay the bills, and hashtags don't hug you at night. Run your own race. Laugh along the way. And remember, even the highlight reel has bloopers that other people haven't seen. That's my message for today, Priscilla.
That's a great message, Ivan. I really like that. Yeah, it's very important to do that, especially since we have all this social media now where it's really a big opportunity to make a great presentation, which, like you said, is not the blooper reel. It's highly produced.
Yeah, I think it gives a false narrative to some extent. And it's important to recognize that not everyone's life is, rainbows and unicorns, that they've had a lot of challenges getting to where they are. And this is said by somebody who loves social media. I use social media, and anyone who follows me on social media knows one thing for sure, that I use most of my social media, certainly my public social media, as an educational platform to talk about the things that I'm teaching, as opposed to, recommend products or services or even my own books. I have far more educational content than I do any kind of promotional content about my books, although I do promote them on my social media.
Okay, full disclosure.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. I think that's it for this week. This podcast is sponsored by MeisnerAudioPrograms.com. These audio programs will provide you with the tools and the inspiration to powerfully enhance your BNI experience. So check out the great material that's available to you at MeisnerAudioprograms.com and then use the promo code Ivan50 for 50% off of everything. All of the proceeds go to the BNI Foundation. Thank you so much for listening. This is Priscilla Rice, and we look forward to having you join us again next week for another exciting episode of the official BNI podcast.